Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And today we're reviewing Rebel Princess Deluxe Edition from Bezier Games. Rebel Princess is a 3 to 6 player trick-taking game. I don't know a ton about the origin here, but I do believe the original Rebel Princess, this is the Deluxe Edition, similar to the way they brought over Cat in the Hat Deluxe or whatnot. But they have this, which is brought over. They have the original Rebel Princess, which I think is a 2000... What?
You said Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat? They said Cat in the Hat. Cat in the Box. Is it called Cat in the Box?
Yes.
That was it called?
Yeah.
Cat in the Hat. They have the Cat in the Hat. They brought over Cat in the Hat from a Dr. Seuss. No, so previously Cat in the Box. Is it called Cat in the Box?
Yeah.
Now like questioning even that. Anyways, they brought over Cat in the Box, a excellent trick-taking game, and that was the game that previously existed. Then they brought over Cat in the Box Deluxe Edition, which I always found confusing because I was like, where's the non-Deluxe Edition? And the non-Deluxe Edition was just an older printing of the game. Mm-hmm. Similar situation over here. There's the original version of the game, which I think is a 2019 title, but I could be wrong with that. And then they brought this one over. They've made some changes. They've tweaked some graphic design. They've added new cards or new rule cards or whatnot. We'll explain more soon. Mm-hmm. But this is a brought-over version of an originally well-received game. It's a 3 to 6 player trick-taking game, and do you want to explain how it works?
Absolutely. So, first of all, if you're not familiar with trick-taking, it is a really well-known genre, but basically what you're doing is generally working with a deck of 4 different suits, and in order to win a trick, you play the highest of that suit. So if we were all playing hearts, for example, the 8 of hearts would beat out the 7, 6, and 5, but there's also a trump card, which in most trick-taking is a heart, but in this game it's going to be the princes, which are trying to court you because you are princesses and you are trying to fight off these different suitors. So to win the game in trick-taking, you are accumulating different points, and it's similar to something like golf where you want the least amount of points possible. Every card left in your hand is a point, and that is bad. You do not want them. You do not want these suitors. So in Rebel Princess, you're going to have a choice at the beginning of the game where you're going to play as one of 2 princesses. You're going to have 2 divvied out to you. You're going to get to choose one, and they add these special abilities that you can use once per round. And the game is going to be played over the course of 5 rounds, and whoever has the least amount of points at the end of the game will win. Now, these are those different variables, which we'll talk about in a second, but these are all variable things that will add a different rule to the different rounds. But in this game, the bad ones are the princes. So you're playing as princesses, and any of these left in your hand once you've won a trick are going to be negative points for you at the end of the game. But the ultimate bad one is going to be this guy, which is the Frog Prince, which is 5 points instead. I believe that's generally how to play, besides how these rules are going to change everything. So each round you're going to have a different rule flipped over and interact with it, but you're only going to have one at a time, which makes things a bit better. So taking a look at the first card here, it's always the bridesmaid. So for this one, it's going to show you that all players are going to take 1 card from their hand. They're going to have all the cards divvied out. They're going to take 1 card, and they're going to pass it to the right. Now, these cards are going to change how many cards are passed and where you pass them. But for this one, it's going to pass just 1, and the second highest card of the lead suit wins the trick. So in that one, where my example earlier was 8, 7, 6, 5, instead the 7 would win this trick because that would be the second highest. That can be a way to really change the game and have players think about how they need to really adapt to the different situations, but some of these variable situations are really, really different and really change the game.
All these, I'll just walk through a few of them, but there's 26 different ones over here. There's 20 basic and then 6 finales. Mm-hmm. We have late for a very important date, where the last 3 cards in the player's hands are kept and scored, which could be a bad thing if you have that Frog Prince or any of the princes that matter. We have crystal clear. After exchanging cards, place all cards of one suit face up in front of you. So you're giving perfect information about one of the suits in your hand, for better or for worse, about how it can hurt you.
Interesting.
We have Rebel Princess over here. We have everyone except the player who leads plays their cards face down. So the first player is going to play a card. Oh, look at that. It's a heart suit, and everyone else is playing their card face down. You don't even know who's broken suit or who hasn't, and who's therefore going to be taking the trick. And all these cards, then we have the last one over here. Last one usually gives you different ways to earn proposals, which are negative points effectively. We have Pet's Revenge over here, which can be pet cards also score a proposal, and therefore the frog is worth 6 points over here.
Yikes.
So all the animals in the game are going to be adding further points, giving you something else you're trying to avoid in that last round of play. So all of these, and there's 26, one for each letter of the alphabet. You'll see letters in the top corner over here. There's 26 different rules adjustments to how you play the game on top of the player abilities, the princesses you have, and then the basic gameplay.
And this one's a great example where this is one where you would pass 1 card to your left and to the right. So some of them are changing how many cards and the direction, but this one's actually changing so that you are splitting the cards instead.
Yep. That's basically how to play the game. I think that's everything.
Yeah.
which means it's time for the review. Starting off with, for the review.
Oh, sorry, I did want to mention one other thing in the rules is, and I forget what it's called in this, Alex, and exactly how it works, but there is a thing known as shooting the moon. And that is when, in a trick-taking game, you take all the tricks, you win all of the points for yourself, and then everyone else gets a negative consequence instead. And do you remember what it is?
I don't know what it's called, but we've been calling it when we play Shooting the Moon. That is what it's called in other games. But yeah, you get all the bad stuff, and that makes it actually good instead of bad.
And do you remember how many points everyone else gets? I think you actually heal in this one.
It's variable. No, it's variable depending on... Oh, yes, you heal negative 10 points, yes.
Yeah.
You heal negative 10 points. Yeah. Which brings us to the review of what we like, don't like, and consider this not liking. Starting off with what we like, and I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, because that's going to show up in my review, so I'm glad it's not coming for the first time. But I'll also go ahead and start off with what I like with this game, because for me, the main thing I like with this game is the insane variability that keeps you on your toes every single time you play. One of the things that's fascinating about Princess is I can see parts of other trick-taking games I've played in the individual rounds you're going to play. There's all these little twists and tricks, but like when you play, like I mentioned Cat in the Box at the beginning of this review, Cat in the Box is a delightful game with a very, very specific trick that changes the entire way you play trick-taking games. But that's the same core puzzle every single time you play. This basically has 26 little adjustments. Hey, you're used to trick-taking games? Oh, well, guess what? Look at this. Now suddenly the lowest card wins. Oh, look at that. You know, whichever card's furthest from the front wins. Oh, suddenly you're playing your cards face down. Suddenly, you know, you're going to be you're going to be drafting cards every single round. After every time you play, you pass a card. At the beginning of the game, you divide your cards into 2 piles, and then you play one pile, and then pass the other pile to your player to your right. At the end, so the whole second round, you're playing with an entire... Every single round is a different adjustment to the way you play trick-taking games, which means it keeps you on your toes. It doesn't allow you to fall into patterns while still maintaining that core concept, which, by the way, is thematically incredibly funny, of like this concept of these princesses trying to avoid proposals and then being deceived by the frog prince and all that. And so you combine the asymmetric abilities of the princesses with just vastly different gameplay every single time you play. And that's the main thing I like about this game.
Yeah, I also really love that you have the princess abilities. I think that for a trick-taking game also adds something to it. And it also gives you a little bit of, like, oomph when you're interacting with these cards that are more difficult. Because as someone who may not play a lot of trick-taking games, you may, have a bit of a more difficult time. And I think that these princesses kind of help you at least, like, keep afoot and feel like you can at least change a couple things. Like, if people are really cornering you into losing a lot of tricks. I really, really like the princesses added, especially because there's so much variability here that you kind of have one constant through the game that you're like, at least this one power I will always have. So I think it kind of guides people through the game too.
Yeah. But even that one power, as much as it's consistent as a power, one of the things I do enjoy, because I like variability, is how useful that power is changes drastically round to round depending on the cards, depending on what shows up. And so for me, really... Like, even now, like, we play this game a bunch, and there are still times where I'll turn over a card and be like, we haven't played with that one before. We haven't played with that new ability. And they all just... You find yourself, if the first time you play this game, you're playing with, like, the second highest card, this lead suit wins the trick, you're going to be walking to the second round, having to, like, mentally re-remember that that's not how you win cards in the second trick. And you're constantly... You feel on your toes. You feel on your toes when you play this game, which for me is a good thing, because it doesn't allow you to fall into patterns. It keeps you constantly reapproaching things.
And I don't think, it's not one of the ones that's showing, but there is one that it's at the end of every round, all players pass a card to the next player. That one is just pure chaos.
Yeah, there's one over here.
I think it's musical chairs.
Musical chairs, yeah. This one over here. After each trick, each player passes a card face down. And, like, that's such a fun one, too.
It's crazy.
It's chaos, but, like, I remember there was one moment in the last game I played where it felt mean. It felt chaotic, but that was in play. And then we were trying to get rid of cards, and I played one of the princes, and I expected or I can't remember the way it played out, but I expected somebody to be able to play red, and because they couldn't, I ended up taking a handful of princes from other players. And so the next trick, I handed that person my higher red, played a lower red, the other players all played princes, and he had a higher red and had to take the whole suit. But, like, that's something you don't get to do in, the rest of this game or other games. It's just that specific round where you're learning and adapting new strategies to how the game plays.
It's almost like it's 5 mini-games in one game.
Yeah, 26 mini-games, of which you play 5 in one game. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Anything you don't like with the game?
I do think the one thing is that it's a little bit... Something that's trick-taking should be a very fast game. And I think this is one thing that can make you more prone to analysis paralysis and slow you down. That I think that it's not necessarily wrong, but I think that that's the only thing, is that it can kind of slow itself down in the game, because halfway through players can, be a bit unsure about the decisions they made and then play a bit slower. So that's my only thing, is that because it has so much thrown at it, it can confuse some people.
So I have three things. One kind of touched upon a little bit what you touched upon, which is the first one is sometimes 5 rounds can feel a little long, and that's made worse by the slower nature of the game. Like, and the nice thing is, I don't think it's in the rules as a variant. I don't think it is, but you can literally just house rule that's 3 rounds. You can call it a day, be like, we're gonna play 2 and a finale card, and that's it, done. So you could just adjust for that whenever you're in the mood. For me, I find I enjoy this game enough. It's usually not a problem. This is almost more what I can see others not liking. It can, I'll say, it's welcome depending on the time. The bigger issues I have, and they're both small issues to be very clear, but they are present, is I do feel the princesses, not all princesses are created equal. Some of them are really cool, very powerful abilities that are always useful, and there's been some where I haven't used the ability the entire game. The threat of it can sometimes be useful, but there have been games where I just didn't use a princess ability, and I was like, oh, well, thought that would be useful, it just didn't pop up.
I do agree with that, and I think, unfortunately, the thing about that is that some of it can be tied to the different goals that you're doing, that some powers just do really well with the particular goals you have out, and if you have, if some people are really synergizing well, and then yours are not at all, it can really change the game.
Definitely agree. And the last thing that's a bigger issue for me is the nature of shooting the moon is complicated in any game. I find I always love the concept, but the execution is always tricky, and I think that's true here as well. When playing this game, when you're shooting the moon, if you do shoot the moon, it's an incredibly cool, powerful moment. If you fail, it goes one of two ways. Sometimes you fail, and enough tricks have been distributed that's not that punishing. But other times, like, I remember the first time I played this game...
I got wrecked.
Oh, that wasn't with you. My first time wasn't with you. My first time I played this game, somebody tried shooting the moon twice in a row, and then they were out of the game. Like, we were playing a 5-round game, and after round 2, they were clearly out of the game. Unless they could shoot the moon successfully for the next 3 rounds, it was clear they're going to lose. And that kind of experience can happen in this game, where you just feel stuck because, shooting the moon's complicated to get right. That's what it comes down to. Going for it can be very rewarding. Failing it can vary in the consequences. And so sometimes you'll have times where a player's probably not winning, and you're still playing through the game just trying to finish it off.
And with things like the princess goals, it can really stop that from happening too.
Yes.
Or the princess abilities.
Yeah. As far as final thoughts and rating, where are you on this one?
For me, this is going to be a solid 4. I think if I spend more time with it, it could go up to a 4.5 because I do really enjoy it. It's one that I think I do want to pull out more and more often, and I haven't gotten to play all of the different variants, so I think that's a huge part of it. But I think, like the flaws that you said, where sometimes it just doesn't work well, and trying to put time into learning all of the different goals, just, kind of slogging through the ones that don't work well or aren't as fun, might not be my jam. But I don't know. I think this is one that I definitely still want to continue to keep playing.
I will say I'm going to add one more thing I don't like. I don't know if you've seen this.
It's just nothing?
Just nothing.
That's
There's no ability. It's just a regular hand. Which I think that has a place, just not in this game.
I think that's good to teach the game. I think that you should pull it out when you're setting it up to do variables, but to actually teach someone...
I want to come up with my own rule and write on this.
That
might happen. Anyways, as far as my rating and final thoughts, so first of all, I found it interesting the way you phrased that. You said it's a 4, could go up, you spend more time with it. I believe I played this a decent amount more than you, and I started as a 4. I started as like this is a 4 for me.
I really like trick-taking.
The more I played this one, the more I enjoyed it. I'm coming in at a 4.5 out of 5. The more time I've spent with this game, the more, and I still haven't seen everything. Because I don't try to play the ones I haven't played. You can play this a lot and still have that surprise card that just hasn't made its way into your games. And so I haven't seen everything. Even now setting up, I believe this one I thought was fascinating. After changing cards, place all cards of one suit face up in front of you.
I mean, even looking at all of the finale cards, have you gotten to see them all, or have you done repeats?
No, I've done repeats. So in general, the game has a lot of variability, which I really appreciate it. The game, a lot of the cards are okay. Some rounds are that's an okay round, but even the okay rounds are good. The okay rounds are my 4s, but there's enough rounds, again, musical chairs, that they really change the way you play the game, that the enough of those in the game have bumped this one to a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I think it's an excellent trick-taking game, and try it out. Check it out.
Yeah, the first time I played this, the very first trick, it was the lowest card wins. And that messed me up for the entire game.
It messes you up. As far as recommendations, do you have anything for this one?
Well, we said it a lot throughout the whole video, so I feel like I should add another. Cat in the Box, absolutely, but also check out The Crew if you want a co-op version where everyone's working together.
So I was actually going to go old school in this one. Check out Hearts. This is basically Hearts with powers and abilities. So if you really want to go old school, some of the things that have inspired the trick-taking renaissance we're in right now, Hearts is one that is basically this game without powers and abilities. It's arguably it's this card again and again and again. So it's not necessarily a recommendation in that sense, but it's this is more about exploring some of the roots that have led to modern game design. Hearts is an age-old game that's been around for a very long time, and if you've passed over games like that, if you've written off Spades and Hearts and all those games that your grandfather used to play, you might actually enjoy them, as long as you throw enough powers and abilities on top of them. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And have a good one.
Bye.